Welcome to today's deep dive. It's going to be a fascinating one. We've got a mix of finance, tech, global economics, even a bit of social commentary.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
We've got expert market analysis,
Okay.
some crypto news, insights from a popular financial influencer,
Love those.
a report on the impact of gold mining in Africa, some tech stock discussions, and even some auto industry news.
Sounds like we've got our work cut out for us.
We do.
Yeah.
Our mission is not just to understand these trends, but to see if we can spot those connections.
Right, exactly.
And think about what they might mean for all of us in the coming years. What does a changing economy really mean for you,
Both now and?
both now and in the future?
Yeah, in the future. That's the key.
Okay, so let's start with this global economic roller coaster we seem to be on. Inflation worries, interest rate hikes, even whispers of deflation.
Yeah.
It's enough to make anyone nervous.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating to see how different markets are reacting to all of this. The US, China, Japan, they're all interconnected.
They are.
What happens in one has ripple effects on the others. We can't forget that.
One of the sources highlighted how China's population decline is kind of mirroring what happened in Japan, which led to decades of economic stagnation.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if we're headed down a similar path.
It's a valid concern. Demographics, they play a huge AGE role in economic growth. An aging population, it presents some unique challenges.
Yeah.
The source also pointed out that the Chinese stock market, it's currently valued surprisingly low compared to the U.S. market, making it potentially a really interesting opportunity for investors that are a little wary of the U.S. market volatility.
I like how they're connecting those things.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears to the tech world. Our influencer friend is, well, they're practically bursting with excitement about AI.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody and their brother is jumping on that bandwagon.
Right.
It feels like we're at a pivotal moment, doesn't it?
The potential of AI is undeniable,
Yeah.
but we need to balance that, that enthusiasm with a dose of reality. The analysis we have suggests a potential slowdown in AI-related spending by, the big giants, Microsoft, those types of companies.
So maybe the AI bubble is due for a little reality check?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
But even if the hype cools down, AI is transforming so many aspects of our lives already. Think about how you're already encountering AI at work,
Absolutely.
in the news you read, or even just your daily routine.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not science fiction anymore.
It's not a futuristic concept. It's here.
Right.
So the question is, how do we harness this power responsibly, and how do we make sure it benefits society as a whole?
Good question. Now, in times of uncertainty, people often turn to tangible assets,
Yes,
and gold is the classic example.
for sure.
One source mentioned that even Costco is now selling gold bullion.
Really?
They're moving millions of dollars worth every month. People are looking for stability.
Wow. That's a sign, yeah. People are looking for security in a very volatile world.
But the allure of gold also has a dark side. You know that report on the illegal gold mining in Africa?
Oh, yeah.
It was really eye-opening.
It is.
The Galamsey mining in Ghana, it's causing devastating environmental damage.
It is. And it's human suffering as well.
Makes you think twice about where your gold comes from, doesn't it?
For sure. It's a stark reminder that, the choices we make as consumers have real-world consequences.
They do.
We need to ask ourselves some tough questions about ethical sourcing, responsible investing.
Yeah.
Can we enjoy gold without contributing to these practices?
That's the challenge.
That's the tough question.
Let's talk about crypto, which, come on, it's always buzzing.
Oh, yeah.
Always something happening. Our influencer is really excited about Bitcoin's recent price rebound
Okay.
and the potential impact of incoming President Trump. And then, plus there's all this intrigue surrounding a possible TikTok ban and how that might
Yeah.
affect the crypto market. It seems like everything is intertwined these days.
Everything is connected. What I think is really interesting right now is this growing focus on regulation, especially with all this talk about these Bitcoin ETF options.
So are we moving toward a more regulated crypto landscape?
Potentially.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
It's a complex question.
It is.
There are valid arguments on both sides.
Yeah.
Increased regulation could bring some stability and attract, more institutional investors.
Right.
But it could also stifle innovation and limit that decentralized nature of crypto. It's a real balancing act.
Yeah. Feels like we're at a crossroads.
We are.
Let's switch gears to something we can all relate to: cars. That interview with the Mazda CEO, it gave us some interesting insights into the future of mobility.
I thought it was interesting how they're taking this, what they call it, like an intentional approach to electrification.
Yeah.
It highlights the fact that there is no one-size-fits-all solution for the auto industry.
Right.
Mazda sees a role for hybrids and is being very strategic about how they're going to integrate EVs into their lineup.
But remember that influencer story about trying to charge their EV during the California wildfires?
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they were struggling. It made me think about, how important it is to have the infrastructure in place for these electric vehicles.
Absolutely. Especially in emergency situations, you've got to think about these things.
Yeah. So are we headed toward an all-electric future? Or will it be a mix of solutions, EVs, hybrids, maybe something we haven't even thought of yet?
That's the big question, isn't it?
And how will all of this impact our personal finances, especially when we think about retirement? The sources painted a bit of a sobering picture.
Yeah, a little bit.
Pensions are fading, Social Security's got a big question mark, and even our trusty 401ks have limitations.
We do. I think the key takeaway here is we can't just rely on those traditional systems anymore. We have to take control of our financial futures and explore different paths.
That's where entrepreneurship comes in, right?
That's right, exactly.
Diversifying income streams.
Yeah. The sources really emphasize the importance of being proactive and building a financial foundation that doesn't depend on, the whims of the market or the government.
So what's one action that someone listening right now could take this week
Yeah.
to start building that more secure financial future,
That's a good question.
regardless of what the markets do?
Yeah, it's all about being adaptable and resourceful.
Mm,
The traditional retirement path might be fading, but there are new opportunities out there, for those who are willing to think a little differently.
I like that. Adaptable and resourceful.
Yeah.
Speaking of adapting, one of the sources, this veteran investor, had an interesting take on the whole Trump tariff situation.
Oh, yeah.
Seems like a lot of people were kind of panicking about it, but he seemed to see it more as a negotiation tactic.
Interesting.
I pointed out that Trump, he comes from a business background
Right.
where you start with an extreme position. You kind of come in hot.
You got to have leverage.
Yeah, to try to get a better deal in the end.
Yeah.
So while the tariffs have created all this uncertainty,
Yeah, for sure.
he sees them as potentially opening up some opportunities
Okay.
in markets that have been kind of overlooked
Interesting.
because people are so afraid of those tariffs.
Yeah, makes sense.
So like what we were talking about earlier with the Chinese market.
Mhm.
But even beyond tariffs, it feels like there's this global tug of war happening.
Oh, for sure.
The analysis highlighted how this strong U.S. dollar, it's putting pressure on other currencies,
Yeah.
especially the Japanese yen.
Right.
It's all connected.
That's why it's so important to look at those relative valuations when you're comparing different markets.
Okay.
The U.S. market might seem expensive on the surface, but other markets, like the Nikkei in Japan, they're trading at much lower multiples,
Okay.
so their stocks are relatively cheaper. But of course, valuations are just one piece of the puzzle when you're making those investment decisions.
Right, exactly.
There's a lot more to it.
Speaking of valuations, let's circle back to the AI conversation.
Okay.
One of the analyses we have suggests that NVIDIA, the leading AI chip maker, might be a bit overvalued at the moment.
Oh, interesting.
Their argument is based on the potential slowdown in AI spending that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
By these major tech companies, Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
If those companies tighten their belts, it could have a real impact on NVIDIA's earnings.
Makes sense.
But, NVIDIA's CEO, he's still incredibly optimistic
Yeah, of course.
about the long-term growth of AI. They're betting big on the demand for their chips
Right.
as AI becomes more and more part of our lives.
So it's all about critical thinking here.
Yeah.
You got to weigh the optimism of these industry leaders against the more cautious perspectives of analysts and investors.
Right.
It's not about being right or wrong. It's about understanding all those different perspectives and making an informed decision.
I like that. Now, let's touch on something that's been in the news a lot lately, the future of TikTok in the U.S.
Oh.
The influencer content that we looked at suggests that a ban is still a real possibility, even with the incoming Trump administration.
Wow.
So what's interesting is how a potential ban could have a ripple effect
Oh, for sure.
throughout the whole tech world.
Huge impact.
We've already talked about, the impact on advertising revenue,
Right.
user migration to other platforms, but it could have implications for, the development of new technologies, new platforms.
Absolutely.
If TikTok disappears, what fills that void?
Yeah.
I mean, Do the established players like, Meta, Facebook, do they just absorb those users, or does it create space for something completely new?
Right. That's a good question.
It reminds us that disruption is a constant in the tech world, right?
Always changing.
What we use today could be completely different in a few years.
Absolutely.
And, that adaptability is crucial, not just in the tech world, but in our own lives and careers.
Yeah.
Remember that retirement segment?
Oh, yeah.
It's not enough to just save money. You have to develop the skills that are going to be relevant
You got to stay ahead of the curve.
in a world that's changing so rapidly.
Yeah, exactly.
But starting a business, going freelance, it can be intimidating.
Oh, for sure.
Where do you even begin?
Right.
What's the first step?
Well, the good news is there are more resources available than ever before.
That's true.
Online courses, mentorship programs,
Yeah.
even communities, of like-minded people.
Support systems?
Exactly. People that can offer support and guidance. You don't have to figure it all out on your own.
You don't have to go it alone.
No, definitely not.
So the key is to take that first step, even if it's a small one, and just learn as you go.
Learn by doing. That's the best way.
Yeah. Okay, let's dive back into Bitcoin for a moment. This whole conversation about these Bitcoin ETF options,
Yeah,
it's a sign of its growing acceptance.
it is.
These sophisticated financial instruments.
Right.
It signals that institutional investors are starting to take Bitcoin seriously, and that could have a big impact on, its price and its stability.
Absolutely. It's a sign that crypto is moving from the fringes to the mainstream.
It is.
But you're right, the investor we were talking about who drew those parallels between China's demographic trends and what happened in Japan.
Yeah.
Could a similar scenario, unfold in the U.S., leading to that deflationary spiral? That's a scary thought.
It's a thought-provoking question, for sure.
There is a possibility.
Yeah.
Although there are some key differences,
Right.
the U.S. economy, it's more diverse,
Mm-hmm.
and immigration continues to contribute to population growth.
Right.
But the aging of the baby boomer generation,
It's a big one.
it is a significant demographic shift. It's something we got to pay attention to.
So how do we prepare for a future where deflation might actually be a possibility? It feels like everything we've talked about today comes back to adaptability,
Yeah, being able to pivot.
being able to pivot. Diversification is key. We need to think beyond those traditional investments, like stocks and bonds.
Right, got to think outside the box.
Explore alternative assets that could perform well in a deflationary environment.
For sure.
Real estate is often mentioned as a hedge against inflation.
Yeah.
But are there other options we should be considering? What about gold?
Yeah, gold has historically been seen as that safe haven asset.
Right.
But remember that report on illegal gold mining?
Oh.
It's a reminder that even when we're diversifying,
Yeah.
we got to think about the ethical implications of our investments.
Ethical considerations.
It's not just about making money, it's about making sure that our investments are aligned with our values.
Are there any other alternative assets that come to mind?
Yeah, you could think about things like commodities, raw materials, oil, copper, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And even cryptocurrencies. These assets have, historically held their value pretty well during periods of economic uncertainty.
Yeah.
But like you said, due diligence is so important. You got to understand where your investments are coming from and the impact that they're having,
That's true.
on the world.
It's not always easy to find that information,
No, it's not.
but it's worth the effort.
It is.
Now, shifting gears for a moment,
Okay.
the influencer, they also got really real about, the stress and the chaos of modern life.
Oh, yeah.
And they shared some interesting strategies for managing it all.
I liked that part.
It's a topic that resonates with me for sure.
Me too.
Life can feel so overwhelming at times.
It really can.
So what were some of those strategies that they talked about?
Well, one of the things they emphasized was the importance of having a routine.
Okay.
Even when things feel really chaotic,
Right.
having that set schedule for sleep,
Mm-hmm.
work, even leisure activities
Right.
can really create a sense of stability and control in your life.
It's like creating a framework for your day.
Exactly. Even when unexpected things pop up, you've got that foundation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They also talked about, the power of prioritizing and learning to say no to things that don't align with your goals.
Oh, it's so hard to say no sometimes.
It is, we feel pressured to do it all.
We do.
But sometimes the most productive thing you can do is actually simplify.
Less is more.
Exactly, and focus on what really matters.
I love that, being intentional with your time and energy.
Exactly. And then they shared this, rather unconventional strategy they called the midnight burn
Oh, yeah.
for resetting your sleep schedule.
I remember that. It sounded a little intense.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I could see how it might be helpful, for certain situations.
It's not for everyone,
Right.
but it highlights how important sleep is.
It does.
When we're well rested, we can handle stress better, we make better decisions,
Hmm.
we're just better equipped to handle, the complexity of life.
It's like that saying, sleep on it.
Right.
Sometimes a good night's rest is all you need.
Exactly.
It really does. It's amazing what a difference a good night's sleep can make.
It is.
I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the global economy to AI, crypto, even the future of transportation.
We've touched on a lot of different trends.
Yeah. The anxieties people are feeling, the rapid advancements in technology, the challenges, the opportunities.
It's a lot to process.
It is. It seems like the key takeaway from all this is just the need to stay informed, to be adaptable, and to always be willing to, learn and grow.
The world's changing so fast.
It is.
And the next few years, I think we're going to see even more rapid innovation and disruption.
So the question is, will you be ready to navigate those changes and come out ahead on the other side?
It's a good question.
That's what it's all about.
It's not about trying to predict the future.
Right.
It's about developing the skills and the mindset to thrive in any environment.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive today.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been great exploring these trends with you. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and, more importantly, a renewed sense of curiosity and possibility.
Keep asking those questions.
Remember, the future is yours to create.
It is.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.